The storm had been hanging over Hellion 4 for nearly a week, the kind of relentless rain that made even the metal ribs of the colony hum like they were tired of existing. Doctor. Elias Voss sat alone in his outpost clinic, watching the weather through fogged windows while sipping coffee that tasted like someone had boiled disappointment and strained it through burnt plastic. He updated the daily medical log out of obligation rather than enthusiasm. Day 87. No emergencies. Treated one technician for a plasma burn caused by an accident that absolutely wasn't an accident. Advised him not to poke energized conduits with bare hands. He will ignore this. Elias pushed send. The sky lit up. Not lightning, this was brighter, cleaner, like molten gold tearing a wound through the clouds. The sound that followed shook the clinic hard enough to rattle every instrument drawer open. Well, Elias murmured, that's different. The tracking console flickered to life. Despite being older than most of the colony staff, it worked just long enough to deliver bad news. An unidentified craft had entered the atmosphere without permission, without control, and without any intention of landing gently. It had crashed. Protocol said he should wait for security. Protocol assumed security wasn't 3 hours away. Protocol had never met Elias Voss. He grabbed his emergency kit, the good one, the one he wasn't supposed to use unless someone was dying, and stepped into the rain. Within seconds he was soaked through, his boots turning the muddy path into a series of regrettable noises. The crash site glowed like a dying ember in the valley. By the time Elias reached it, his lungs burned and the rain had turned his hair into something that defied physics. The wreck was half buried in the hillside, sleek and obsidian, pulsing faintly as if reluctant to die. Definitely alien, definitely not in any colonial database. "Hello," he called, pulling up his respirator. "If anyone in there is alive, please don't attack me. I'm a doctor, I fix people. Ideally while they're not trying to murder me." No response. Inside, the ship looked like a metal skeleton torn apart mid-breath. Sparks flickered. The emergency lights cast everything in sharp crimson shadows. And then he saw her. A woman, humanoid, barely conscious, slumped beside a shattered control console. Her armor was unlike anything he'd seen. Dark, iridescent, etched with symbols that seemed to shift when he looked directly at them. Her skin was pale gold, faintly luminescent, hair black with a sapphire sheen. Her ears were elongated, elegant, tapering into fine points. And when Elias touched her neck to check for a pulse, he froze. Her blood shimmered silver blue. "Oh, that's new," he whispered. "Let's pretend I'm qualified for this." The scanner protested immediately. Unknown species, unknown metabolic structure, unknown everything. But it gave him enough to work with. Internal bleeding, fractured ribs, dangerous neural stress. Any human would have been dead, but she was. He stabilized what he could, talking the entire time because silence made the situation too real. "You're doing great. I mean, you're doing terribly, objectively speaking, but relative to being dead, this is going very well." He rigged a sling and carried her out, slowly, painfully, and with a level of determination he would regret tomorrow when his spine filed a complaint. Hours later, after blood-stained gloves and improvised techniques he would absolutely not report in the official log, she lay on the clinic bed, stable, breathing, alive. Elias collapsed into a chair, exhausted but relieved. He had so many questions, starting with "who are you" and ending with "what did I just involve myself in?" But answers could wait. 3 days passed. Her wounds healed at a speed that made human medicine feel like clerical work. She never slept, or at least Elias never caught her sleeping. She watched him with amber eyes that seemed to calculate more than observe, and she never spoke, not couldn't, wouldn't. Elias discovered her micro-expressions, almost smiles, faint eye movements, tiny reactions to his rambling commentary, as if she understood everything but chose to remain an enigma. "You definitely get me," he said on the 4th morning while changing a dressing that had already closed into a thin, shining scar. "You flinch at needles and perk up at food. If you're pretending not to understand, you're extremely committed to the bit." She tilted her head, the faintest glimmer of amusement touching her lips. Progress. That night he found her standing by the rain-streaked window, silent, watching the storm like it was speaking a language only she understood. When he approached, she placed her palm against the glass. He mirrored the gesture. Their hands aligned, separated by a thin, cold barrier, yet strangely intimate. "I'm going to figure out who you are," Elias whispered. In a respectful, non-creepy way, obviously. Her lips moved, no sound, but he read the shape. Try, his heart stuttered. Then the console beeped, a message, urgent, unexpected, security assessment team en route, 48 hours. Prepare for alien retrieval. Elias looked at her, she looked back, and for the first time he saw fear, not of pain, not of him, but of being found. This is going to get messy, isn't it? He said quietly. For the first time. By the morning, the rain had eased into a soft mist that clung to the clinic windows like breath. Elias hadn't slept more than an hour, but that was a problem for tomorrow's version of himself. Today's version had bigger issues, like a silent alien woman who healed faster than medical science, and an incoming security team that absolutely would not appreciate. I hit her because I liked her vibe as a reason. She sat on the edge of the bed, feet bare, posture perfectly upright, watching him, always watching him. You know, Elias muttered while organizing supplies in a way that definitely wasn't nervous, this would be a great time for communication. Just a word, a syllable, a yes or no answer to, are we all going to die? I'm flexible. She blinked, slow, deliberate, not helpful. Elias exhaled, gripping the counter. Okay, here's what I know. Colonial security doesn't arrive early unless they think something is dangerous or valuable, or both. And considering your healing rate, blood chemistry, and the fact that your ship looked like it ate stealth technology for breakfast, he stopped. You're important, aren't you? Her expression didn't change, but her gaze sharpened, like someone adjusting focus on a target. Right, Elias said. So that's a yes, perfect, wonderful, I love existential dread before noon. He turned back to the console, running a scan on the perimeter. The security dropship was still 2 hours out. A thin margin of safety, maybe. Behind him, fabric rustled. When he looked, she was standing. No sign of earlier injuries, no hesitation. Her borrowed clothes fit poorly, sleeves too short, collar too tight, but she wore them with a quiet dignity that made the clinic look embarrassingly ordinary. You really shouldn't be on your feet, Elias said automatically. Medically speaking, not that medical rules apply to you, apparently. She approached him, silent as a thought. He felt rather than heard her presence at his shoulder, the air shifting subtly. When he glanced sideways, she was examining the console, eyes scanning symbols she had no reason to understand, yet somehow did. You know what that is, don't you? Elias whispered. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her amber eyes reflected the scrolling data like molten metal. Then she touched his wrist. A light touch, precise. Intentional, not a request, a decision. She guided his hand to the biometric pad. The console chimed, access expanded, permissions unlocked, encrypted files sliding open like the system recognized a higher authority than him. Elias froze. Hey, hold on, I didn't know this terminal even had a secondary clearance level. Are you hacking my clinic? She didn't react. Instead, she navigated through layers of colonial classified data with movements too confident to be accidental. The screen displayed ship signatures, military archives, historical conflict reports. Then she found something. A fleet. Silhouettes of massive starships, obsidian and elegant, the same design language as her crashed vessel. Red annotations marked the image, avoid engagement. Maximum priority threat, Elias swallowed. So you're military. No reaction, he tried again. High-ranking military. The faint tightening of her jaw. And I'm guessing you being here is not voluntary. A pause, then softly she exhaled, something between a sigh and the first sound of truth. That was when the console beeped again. Elias checked the display. The security ship had accelerated. ETA, 63 minutes. Perfect, he muttered. Nothing like a mild heart attack with breakfast. She watched him, expression unreadable, but her posture had shifted. Not defensive, choosing. Elias stepped back. Okay, we need a plan. Step 1, don't let them take you. Step 2, figure out step 1. Her gaze softened, not warmth, something quieter. Trust, maybe, or recognition, he couldn't tell. Then she did something he didn't expect. She walked to the supply cabinet, opened it, and began selecting items with professional precision. Field sealants, antitoxin injectors, a portable scanner, a sterile thermal cloak. A survival kit. You're preparing to run, Elias said. She didn't deny it. He moved toward her, placing himself between her and the door, not that it would stop her if she wanted to leave. You can't outrun a security cruiser on foot. And I can't explain your disappearance without looking guilty as hell. If you go, we both lose. She tilted her head, studying him again, no longer like an unknown variable, but like a decision she wasn't entirely comfortable making. You don't have to trust me, Elias said quietly. But I'm the only person on this planet who wants to help you rather than dissect you. Another heartbeat of silence, then her lips parted. A single word shaped with care, low, resonant, threaded with an accent he couldn't place. Stay. Elias blinked. That was for me or for you. Her gaze held his, both. Before he could respond, the sound of engines thundered overhead, closer, heavier, unmistakably military. The security ship was early. Floodlights swept across the clinic windows. Boots hit the mud. Voices barked commands. Elias' stomach dropped. "This is happening," he whispered. She stepped closer to him, close enough that he felt the warmth of her presence. Commander Rowan Hale was the kind of man who walked into a room like he'd already won the argument. Tall, sharp-edged, uniform spotless despite the rain, a faint scar along his jaw that made him look more experienced, or more dangerous, than he probably was. He stepped into the clinic without waiting to be invited. "Dr. Voss," he said, "you were instructed to prepare for our arrival." Elias offered a tight smile. "Oh, trust me, I've been preparing spiritually, emotionally, existentially." Rowan didn't react. He scanned the room with the cold efficiency of someone trained to notice what others pretended wasn't there. Behind Elias, she stood near the exam table, silent, composed, expression unreadable. But Elias could feel the tension in her stillness like a wire pulled taut between them. Rowan's gaze landed on her, and locked. The pause that followed was strange. Not fear, not surprise, something sharper, like recognition, but incomplete. "Identify yourself," Rowan said. She didn't move, didn't blink, didn't breathe, as far as Elias could tell. Rowan tried again. "This is not optional. State your name and affiliation under interspecies contact protocol." Still nothing. Elias forced a casual shrug. "She doesn't talk." Rowan turned his attention to Elias, eyes narrowing. "Medical or voluntary?" "Both. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting." Rowan stepped closer to her, too close. Elias tensed, ready to intervene even though the idea of physically blocking a trained officer was laughable. Rowan studied her face, lingering a fraction too long on the ears, the eyes, the posture. "You're not on record," he murmured. "Your physiology is inconsistent with known species, and your ship, that wreck, is military-grade stealth technology. You expect me to believe you're a civilian wanderer." "Nothing," Rowan clicked his tongue. "Fine, we'll do this the hard way. Zenobio team." A younger man in a lab coat rushed in, breathless, holding a scanner that hummed at a pitch Elias instantly disliked. Rowan gestured. "Scan her." The scientist hesitated. "Sir, the readings we got from the crash." "Do it." He stepped forward, and that was the first time she moved. Not violently, not aggressively. Just a small shift of weight, subtle, fluid, a pivot in her stance that placed Elias slightly behind her. Shielding him, Rowan saw it and frowned. Elias swallowed hard. "She's still healing. Maybe don't poke her with loud tools." "She will comply," Rowan said. "She doesn't have a choice." Something changed behind her eyes. Not anger, judgment. She allowed the scan, her gaze never leaving Rowan's face. The scanner beeped, the readings flashing across the screen. The scientist went pale. Commander, sir, this is, I don't know what this is." "Explain." "These cellular signatures. Nobody has regeneration rates like this, not even enhanced operatives. Neural mapping is, Commander, this isn't standard physiology. This is engineered." Rowan stiffened. "Military." "Not ours." Elias felt the shift in the air, Rowan's posture tightening, suspicion hardening into something heavier. He stepped protectively in front of her before he could stop himself. "Rowan, she hasn't done anything wrong. She crash-landed, she was injured, I treated her. That's the whole story." "That is not the whole story," Rowan said quietly, "and you know it." A second beep from the scanner drew their attention. The scientist stared at the device, shaking his head. "Commander, there's a secondary genetic marker. Coded, high-level augmentation, command lineage." Rowan's voice dropped. "Are you telling me she's—" Before he could finish, the lights flickered, just once, but it was enough. She lifted her head, eyes bright, alert, aware in a way that made Elias' pulse spike. Rowan stepped back instinctively. Elias saw the fear in him for the first time. "Doctor." "Voss," Rowan said slowly, "what exactly have you been harboring here?" Elias opened his mouth to answer. But she spoke first. Not loudly, not with threat, just a single word, quiet as the falling rain. "Enough." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Rowan froze. The scientist stopped breathing. Elias felt the hair on his arms rise. Her voice was calm, steady, controlled, but the weight of it, the weight was not human, not civilian. Not anything that belonged in a small backwater clinic. She stepped forward, not threateningly, regally. "I allowed the silence," she said, her accent soft but precise. Not because I feared you, but because I observed. And now your intentions are clear. Rowan swallowed. You can speak. I can do many things, she replied, most of which you do not want demonstrated here. Elias glanced at Rowan. See, she's very polite, terrifying but polite. Rowan ignored him. Identify yourself now. Her eyes, those molten amber eyes, did not waver. My name, she said, is not one your language deserves to carry, but you may call me Saren. Rowan stiffened. The scientist dropped his scanner. Elias felt the shift before he understood it. Rowan recognized that name. You're lying, Rowan whispered. Saren she's a myth, a war phantom, a strategist that ended conflicts before they began. The ghost sovereign. Elias exhaled. A myth, wonderful, great, I'm treating a myth. She didn't move, didn't deny it. Return to your ship, she told Rowan. You have nothing here that belongs to you. Rowan stared at her, then at Elias. You're protecting her. It wasn't a question. Elias' voice came out steadier than he felt. Yes. Rowan shook his head slowly. Dr. Voss, you have no idea what you're doing. Accurate, Elias said, but I'm doing it anyway. Rowan signaled his team. We're not done, not by a long shot. They backed out slowly, like men leaving a cage with a predator they weren't sure was sleeping. When the door shut behind them, silence filled the room. Elias turned to her. You said your name was Saren. That's Saren. She studied him a long moment. Then, you should not have stood between us. Yeah, the clinic felt different after Rowan left, quieter, but not in a peaceful way. It was the kind of silence that settles right before a storm breaks, thick enough to feel against the skin. Elias closed the door slowly, half expecting Rowan to burst back in and declare the entire outpost under military lockdown. Saren stood by the window, her silhouette framed by the fading rain. She didn't speak, didn't move. But Elias could sense, instinctively, that her stillness was no longer observation. It was calculation. He's coming back, Elias said quietly. Yes. Her voice was calm, but the word carried weight. And he will not come alone. Elias exhaled, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Why are they so scared of you? Why do they care this much? I need to understand what I'm protecting. Saren turned her head slightly. Not enough to be dramatic, but enough for Elias to feel the shift. Her amber eyes caught the dim clinic lights, reflecting them like smoldering metal. To know me, she said softly, is to be in danger. I'm already in danger. Elias spread his hands helplessly. I crossed that line the moment I carried you out of that wreck. She didn't deny it. Instead, she studied him with quiet intensity, like she was deciding how much of herself he deserved to see. You act without calculation, Saren said. Most humans do nothing without weighing risk against reward, but you chose to help without hesitation. A pause, it is unusual. That sounds like a compliment, Elias said. It is an observation. But she looked away quickly, as if she'd shown too much. Come on, Elias said gently. Sit. You've pushed yourself too far for someone who supposedly died last week. To his surprise, she obeyed. She sat on the examination table with a grace that made ordinary movement look regal. Elias pulled a chair beside her. For a moment they just sat, two people breathing in the same small room, listening to wind hum against metal panels. Finally, Elias broke the silence. You could have spoken earlier to me, to Rowan, to anyone. Why stay silent all this time? Saren's fingers tightened slightly, not enough for most people to notice, but Elias had learned her tells. Silence reveals, she said. People speak to fill the void. They expose their intentions, their fears, their truths when the other says nothing. Words hide, silence uncovers. Elias tilted his head. So you were studying me. And your colony. And your reactions. She paused. I needed to know whether I had awakened among enemies. Elias laughed under his breath. Well, you woke up with me, so statistically unlucky for both of us. Her lips twitched. The smallest, quietest hint of amusement. You are strange, Elias Voss. I get that a lot. No, she said, not like this. There was something in the air now, subtle, electric, pulling them closer in a way that had nothing to do with proximity. Her eyes held his longer than they had any right to. And Elias felt something he absolutely should not feel toward an unknown alien fugitive who could probably erase him with a thought. Connection. But she was the one who broke the moment. Rowan knows I am not what I appear, she said. His hesitation confirms it. What does he think you are? Elias asked. Saren didn't answer immediately. Her gaze drifted back to the window, to the shifting mist settling over the valley. He suspects my lineage, she said at last, but he does not know the extent. Lineage, Elias repeated. That sounds royal. Saren didn't move. Didn't breathe, didn't deny. Elias swallowed. Saren, are you? Before he finished, the perimeter alert chimed. A single, sharp tone. Elias' heart dropped. Saren slid off the table with silent, lethal grace, every movement suddenly sharper. Her posture shifted, less injured survivor, more apex predator, remembering who she really was. Elias checked the console. His pulse spiked. Rowan's coming back, he whispered. He's bringing 2 transports this time, full tactical escort. Saren stepped beside him close enough that he felt her presence like heat. The engines hit first, deep, rhythmic thunder that shook dust from the clinic lights. Elias didn't need the console to tell him Rowan hadn't come back for conversation. He glanced at Saren. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't even tense. She stood in the center of the room, posture straight, hands loose at her sides, eyes glowing faintly with a quiet power that had nothing to do with physical strength. She had decided something. Elias, she said without turning, they will enter with weapons drawn. Fantastic, he muttered. I always wanted to die on a rainy Tuesday. Her head tilted slightly, as if she couldn't decide whether he was joking or simply insane. The danger is real. So is my coping mechanism. Before Saren could respond, the clinic door shook under a heavy impact. Colonial security, Rowan's voice bellowed from outside. Dr. Voss, step away from the alien. This is your last warning. Elias felt Saren shift behind him, calm, quiet, almost peaceful, like a storm accepting itself. He stepped closer to her, lowering his voice. Saren, don't kill anyone. Her eyes flicked to him just for a moment. I do not wish to, she said. That's not the same as woe. No answer. The door control panel sparked and hissed. Someone outside was overriding it. Lights flickered. Elias' heart raced. Then the door blew open. Rowan entered first, armored soldiers flanking him, rifles raised. They swept into the clinic in practiced formation. Everyone stand still, Rowan barked. No sudden movements. Saren didn't move at all. That was somehow worse. Rowan approached her slowly, eyes sharp. We ran your biometrics through every classified archive we have access to. Saren's gaze met his, bored almost. And Rowan continued, you're not a soldier. Elias held his breath. You're not a diplomat or a scout or a defector. Rowan took another step. You're a runaway. Saren's expression didn't change, but something cold and old slipped into her eyes. Rowan swallowed. Your royal bloodline. Elias blinked. Royal what? Rowan didn't look away from her. You're Saren Valkith. Silence crashed over the room like a wave. Elias had heard the name before, not from myth, but from classified files he was absolutely not supposed to access. A ruler spoken about in strategic memos, in whispered threat assessments, in emergency protocols that started with if encountered and ended with immediate planetary evacuation. A war sovereign, a galactic fulcrum, an emperor not by ceremony but by force. Saren lowered her chin slightly. Acceptance, not denial. Rowan exhaled shakily. You disappeared 3 weeks ago. There are entire fleets searching for you. Your empire is tearing itself in half. Civil war, power vacuum, assassinations. His voice dropped. Millions could die depending on where you stand. Saren remained still, but Elias felt the air hum faintly around her like energy answering her pulse. Rowan pointed to her with a trembling hand. You being here on this colony is a geopolitical nightmare. I did not choose to crash, Saren replied evenly, but I choose not to be used. Rowan shook his head. We can't let you stay hidden. We have protocols, treaties. If anyone finds out we sheltered you. They won't, Saren said. You cannot guarantee that. I can. Rowan stepped closer, lowering his voice. Your empire is already fracturing. If you don't return soon, someone else will take your throne. Let them, Saren said softly. If my court attempted to kill me, then my empire must face itself without me. Rowan stared, stunned. You're abandoning your crown. No, her eyes glinted. I am choosing how I reclaim it. The soldiers shifted uneasily. Elias could practically feel their fear. Saren wasn't threatening them, but she carried a presence that pressed against instinct itself. Rowan turned to Elias next. This is your last chance, he said. Step aside. We take her into custody. We file a secure diplomatic alert and you walk away alive. If you interfere again, he didn't finish the sentence. Elias didn't step aside. He stepped forward. Rowan, he said, I'm not handing her over. Rowan stared at him like he'd just grown a second head. Elias, she's dangerous. So am I, Elias said. Emotionally, logistically. Spiritually, Don't joke. I'm not. Rowan's expression darkened. You're risking everything for her. Elias glanced at Saren out of the corner of his eye. She was watching him with a look he didn't recognize, something warmer, something almost fragile beneath the steel. She risked everything first, Elias said. Saren inhaled sharply, just once. The only sign his words had reached her. Rowan exhaled, defeated and furious. Fine, you made your choice. He signaled his soldiers. Restrain them both. Saren didn't move. Elias braced himself, but neither of them expected what happened next. The lights flickered. The floor trembled. A sharp frequency hummed through the walls, too high for human ears but low enough for Elias to feel in his bones. Saren lifted her head. Her eyes glowed, not brightly, not violently, but with ancient authority. Do not touch him, she said. Every soldier froze mid-step. Rowan's face drained of color. You activated something. A signal. Yes, Saren said. What did you call? She answered him with quiet certainty. My fleet. The clinic fell silent. Outside, the sky split with distant thunder, except it wasn't thunder. It was something descending, something massive. Something hers. Rowan stumbled back. You brought them here. The ground shook again, this time not from engines, but from something deeper, older, heavier. A low resonance rolled through the valley like the heartbeat of a creature too large to comprehend. Rowan stumbled toward the window. What is that? Elias already knew the answer. Saren's fleet had arrived. The clouds tore open in a great yawning wound of light. Not fire, not thunder, something controlled, precise, impossibly graceful. Silhouettes descended through the mist, massive obsidian vessels, their hulls glowing faintly with shimmering lines of alien script. They didn't fall. They didn't land. They took position, forming a silent constellation above the clinic. Rowan's soldiers panicked. Commander, readings off the scale. Those ships shouldn't exist. Sir, tactical AI just crashed. Shut up, Rowan barked, though his voice cracked. Weapons ready. Saren spoke before they could raise a rifle. No. It wasn't loud, but it rippled through the room. A command woven into something biological, something authoritative. Every soldier froze as if their bones had locked. Saren stepped forward, the faint glow in her eyes shifting, dimming, stabilizing. She looked tired. Elias noticed the slight slump in her shoulders, the first sign her composure was a burden, not a nature. When my people arrive, she said, you will not fire, you will not speak unless spoken to, you will stand still. Rowan swallowed. Or what, you'll kill us. Saren shook her head. No, they will. The building trembled again as a smaller vessel separated from the formation. A dropship, shaped like a blade sliding from its sheath. It descended with impossible precision, landing barely 20 meters from the clinic. A hiss of steam, a low roar of magnetic engines winding down, then silence. The door began to open. Rowan took a shaky step back. Doctor. Voss, Elias, whatever happens, get out of their way. Elias didn't move, not without her. Saren turned sharply toward him, truly startled for the first time. Elias, no, you cannot stand between my people and their sovereign. They will not understand. Then explain it to them. That is not how my empire works. Then maybe, Elias said softly, it's time it learns. Saren stared at him, really stared, as if she'd never expected those words from anyone, human or otherwise. Something in her face cracked open just slightly, revealing the depth beneath the armor. Before she could answer, the dropship door fully opened. 3 figures stepped out, tall, armored. Their armor was black with streaks of violet, the same shifting glow as Saren's crashed vessel. Their helmets bore the crest Elias had seen in the classified files, a fractal emblem known across half the galaxy, the Sovereign Line. The central figure removed their helmet. A woman with silver-black braids and eyes like polished steel stared directly at Saren. She went down on one knee instantly. Vatsarin, she said, by the oath of the Void Fleets we have come. Rowan's soldiers dropped their rifles. A few fell to their knees out of sheer instinct. Elias understood now this wasn't just royalty. This was myth incarnate. Saren didn't answer. She stood completely still, but Elias saw her hands shake, not from fear. From exhaustion she'd been hiding since the day he found her. The kneeling commander lifted her head. Your Highness, you are injured. Saren straightened. I live. That is enough. It is not. The commander's gaze snapped to Elias. You, human, you tended to her. Elias swallowed. Yes. You touched the sovereign. I carried her out of a burning ship, he said. So yeah, technically. The commander rose slowly, expression unreadable. Then you have earned acknowledgement. Elias blinked. Is that good? Few in this galaxy would survive such proximity, she said. Even fewer would choose it. Saren stepped between them suddenly. He is under my protection. The commander raised an eyebrow. Is he? Saren hesitated, not from doubt, from vulnerability. Yes, she said finally, he is. Elias felt his chest tighten, not from fear this time, but from something dangerously close to emotion. The commander studied Saren carefully. The court believes you dead. The factions that betrayed you have begun their move. We must depart immediately before your absence fractures the Empire beyond repair. Saren looked away. Her voice when she spoke was softer than Elias had ever heard it. I am not ready. The words stunned the room. Rowan stared. The soldiers stared. Even the armored commander flinched as though hearing something forbidden. Elias stepped close to her. Saren, he whispered, you don't have to pretend here. She turned toward him, eyes bright with something raw, almost painful. I have not rested, she admitted. I have not allowed myself to rest in years. If I return now, I return as a weapon, not a ruler. I cannot lead my people like this. Elias lowered his voice. Tell them what you need. Saren hesitated, breath trembling. Then she faced her commander. I ask, she said, for silence, for time, for 1 month. The commander stiffened as if slapped. Your Majesty, a month could mean planetary collapse. A month, Saren repeated, or I do not return at all. The commander stared at her sovereign, then slowly bowed her head. Night fell over Hellion 4 with a deceptive calm. The storm had finally broken, leaving the sky bruised and heavy. The quiet felt wrong, too still, too poised, like the planet was holding its breath. Elias sensed it before he understood it. A pressure, a shift in the air, a feeling that something was watching. Inside the clinic, Saren paced slowly, her expression tightened into something controlled but uneasy. She felt it too. Saren. Elias asked, what's wrong? She didn't answer immediately. Her eyes tracked the shadows like they were alive. My fleet did not descend openly, she said softly. They keep distance to avoid destabilizing this colony. Elias nodded. And that's good, right? It means, she continued, that anyone approaching now is not mine. A chill crawled up Elias' spine. Rowan, who'd stubbornly remained in the corner with 2 of his soldiers, straightened. Define not yours exactly. Saren stopped pacing. Her voice dropped to a whisper that made the floor feel colder. Assassins. The word hit the room like a physical blow. Rowan swore. Elias blinked at her. You're sure? Yes. She lifted her head, nostrils flaring almost imperceptibly. 3. A pause, no 4. Elias felt his heartbeat spike. They're already here. Saren's eyes turned toward the front door, narrowing. They arrived 5 minutes ago. As if on cue, the clinic lights flickered. Rowan pulled his weapon. Why didn't you say anything earlier? They masked their arrival well, Saren said. Better than expected, they were trained for me. Elias looked at her sharply. Trained to capture you? Saren's gaze hardened. To kill me. Before Elias could respond, the clinic door eased open, not slammed, not forced, just quietly pushed like someone testing air pressure. A shape slid inside, tall. Humanoid, armor blacker than Saren S, marked with jagged angular sigils, the sigils of traitor houses. Its helmet tilted slightly, scanning the room. Rowan shouted down. But the assassin moved before the shout finished, impossibly fast, crossing the room in a blur of shadowed metal. Elias felt Saren's hand on his shoulder, pushing him back just as the assassin's blade sliced through the space he'd been standing in. Her voice snapped like thunder. Stay behind me. She met the assassin in a clash of motion, fluid, precise, impossibly strong despite her still healing body. Sparks burst as their weapons connected. Hers an improvised metal tray she'd snatched from the counter, his a shimmering monoblade. Rowan fired 3 shots center mass, but the assassin twisted unnaturally, the bullets skimming past. Another assassin slipped in from the broken window, silent as fog. A third dropped from the ceiling vents. Rowan, Elias shouted, behind you. Rowan spun, firing wildly as the soldiers formed a defensive line. Saren took a hit, blunt trauma to the ribs. She staggered, but only for a breath. Then her eyes flashed with a light Elias had never seen before. A power she'd been holding back. She caught the attacking assassin by the wrist and broke the weapon arm with a single violent twist. The sound made Elias flinch, but there was no time. The 4th assassin finally revealed themselves, this one smaller, faster, more strategic. They bypassed Rowan, bypassed the soldiers, bypassed everything, and aimed straight for Elias. Saren saw it, and something in her broke open. Elias. She crossed the room with terrifying speed, placing herself between him and the assassin just as the blade came down. The impact rang through her body. The blade pierced armor, slicing flesh. Elias screamed, Saren. She didn't fall. Instead, she turned, grabbing the assassin by the throat and slamming them into the wall with force that cracked the plaster. Touch him again, she hissed, and you die screaming. The assassin struggled, but her grip tightened like a vice. The others froze. Even Rowan froze. No one in the room had ever heard a voice like that. Elias stared at her wide-eyed, breathless, terrified for her and of her all at once. The assassin gasped, choked, and finally went limp. Saren let the body drop. Silence fell, her breathing was uneven. Blood, silver blue, ran freely down her side. She swayed once. Elias caught her just before she slipped, her fingers curled weakly around his shirt. Elias, she whispered. I'm here, he said. I'm right here. The wound, she said faintly. It was meant to slow me, weaken me. They want me alive but broken. Rowan approached cautiously, weapon lowered. Are there more coming? Saren didn't answer. Her eyes fluttered. Elias tightened his hold on her. Saren, stay with me. She leaned her forehead against his, an intimacy so unexpected it stole his breath. You cannot die, she whispered. Not because of me. Elias shook his head fiercely. We're not dying, either of us, you hear me. Her lips trembled. Something like a fragile smile appeared. You are the most reckless human I've ever met. And you're the most stubborn alien I've ever found bleeding on my floor, he whispered back. She exhaled a shaky breath. Her hand rose, touching his. Elias lowered Saren gently onto the examination table, his breath coming in sharp, panicked bursts. Silver blue blood pooled beneath her. Too much, far too much. And every medical instinct in him screamed that she should already be unconscious. She was, Saren, hey, Saren, listen to me, Elias said, slapping the console to full power. You don't get to die here, I forbid it. Rowan barked orders at his remaining soldiers. Seal the perimeter, no one gets in or out. We don't know how many more are here. Elias ignored him. He was already scanning Saren's wound, deep, angled, designed to bypass vital organs but flood her system with destabilizing toxins. Not to kill immediately. To disable. Rowan glanced at the screen and paled. That toxin pattern, Elias, this was meant for you. Elias froze. What? Rowan pointed. Human-compatible neurodisruptor, the kind that kills in under a minute. On her, it only weakens. They didn't come to kill the Sovereign. Elias' chest tightened. They came to kill me. Rowan nodded grimly. You protected her. They needed you out of the way. The room tilted for a moment, not from fear. From something much heavier. Saren had taken a blade meant to kill him instantly. His throat closed. Rowan, hand me the stabilizer vial, Elias said, voice trembling. Now. Rowan tossed it to him, and Elias injected Saren without hesitation. The fluid spread through her veins, glowing faintly under her skin like tiny stars sparking to life. But her vitals still dropped. Come on, Elias whispered. The diagnostic display changed suddenly. Alien symbols lit up, patterns Elias hadn't seen before. Saren's blood chemistry was shifting, spiraling, destabilizing. Elias, Rowan said quietly, what's happening? She's fighting the toxin. Elias swallowed, but she's losing. The lights dimmed, then pulsed. Not from the clinic, from her. Her body emitted a faint harmonic vibration, like a frequency too low to be real. The air thickened around her, papers lifted slightly, metal instruments trembled on their trays. Rowan stumbled back. What is that? Energy discharge, Elias said. Reflexive, defensive, she's trying to reboot her cellular matrix. A pause, but she doesn't have enough strength. Saren's breathing faltered, her lips parted. A whisper escaped, barely shaped, barely sound. Elias. His heart cracked, he leaned close. I'm here, I'm not going anywhere. Her eyes fluttered, unfocused, lost. Do not fear. He almost laughed brokenly. I'll stop fearing when you stop dying on my table. A flicker of a smile touched her mouth. Even now. Rowan looked between them, shocked. She's connected to you. Elias ignored him. He was already moving, pulling up the alien medical interface Saren had unlocked earlier. It displayed a pulsing symbol he hadn't noticed before, two interlocking spirals. A regeneration conduit, according to the minimal translation. Organic, energetic, requires external stabilizing contact. Rowan frowned. What does that mean? Elias exhaled. It means she needs a living energy anchor to survive. You mean? Yes, Elias said. It has to be me. Elias, Rowan said sharply. We don't know what that procedure does. I don't care. Elias. Rowan, she took a blade for me. I'm returning the favor. He placed his hand over the glowing spiral symbol on her sternum. Instantly, the console lit up. Bioanchor accepted. Life sign link. Initiating. A surge of warmth spread through Elias' palm up his arm into his chest. His breath caught. It wasn't painful, but it was overwhelming, like stepping into a memory that wasn't yours. He saw flashes. A war, a throne of obsidian. Saren standing alone against a burning skyline, loneliness sharper than any blade. He gasped. Rowan grabbed his shoulder. Elias pulled back. No, Elias choked. She's showing me. She's letting me in. I can help. The clinic lights flared bright blue as the link stabilized. Saren's back arched, her eyes snapping open, glowing with the same blue light, flooding the room with alien luminescence. Her hand shot out, gripping Elias' wrist. Hard, too hard. Elias, stop! Rowan shouted, but Elias didn't flinch. It's okay, he whispered. I'm here, come back. Saren's voice came fractured, layered, like multiple tones speaking as one. Why would you risk yourself? Because you matter, Elias said, his voice breaking. More than you realize. Her eyes dimmed slightly, enough to make her look like herself again. You are fragile. I'm aware. And foolish. Very. Her grip eased, then softened, then held. The energy faded slowly, the room stilled, the monitors steadied. Saren collapsed back onto the table, breathing slow, steady, alive. Elias sagged into the chair, trembling. Rowan exhaled shakily. You suicidal idiot, you actually did it. Elias took Saren's hand gently. Her fingers curled around his, not by reflex, by choice. When she finally spoke, her voice was faint but steady. Elias. Yes, if you had died, her throat tightened. I would have burned every world responsible. He laughed weakly. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever. For the first time since the crash, the clinic felt warm. Dim lights glowed softly. Rain pattered against the window. Saren lay on the examination table, breathing steadily, her skin no longer pallid but shimmering faintly with renewed strength. Elias sat beside her, still holding her hand, afraid to break the fragile thread between life and whatever came dangerously close to ending her. Rowan stood a few feet away, arms crossed, watching the two of them with an expression that had shifted from suspicion to concern. You shouldn't have done it, Rowan finally said. Elias didn't look up. I did. You bonded your life signs with hers. Do you understand what that means? No, Elias said honestly, but I know she'd be dead without it. Rowan sighed. She might still die. That link, whatever it is, could kill you both. Then it's a good thing we're not planning on dying. Saren stirred faintly at Elias' voice. Her eyelashes fluttered once, twice. Then her eyes opened, slowly, heavily. Her gaze found Elias immediately. You are still here, she whispered. No, Elias said. You're hallucinating. I left hours ago. A faint, strained smile touched her lips. Your humor is terrible. You keep encouraging it. Her fingers tightened around his, weak but deliberate. Rowan cleared his throat. Your Majesty. Saren turned her head toward him. Even weakened, the force of her presence made Rowan step back. Do not call me that, she said softly. Not here. Rowan hesitated. Saren, then, we need to talk. There's been a transmission. Elias tensed. From who? Rowan rubbed the back of his neck, uneasy. Not who, what? Our satellite array intercepted a stealth pulse. It's not from your fleet. Saren's eyes sharpened. Describe the signature. Rowan handed her his datapad. Saren's breath caught. House Vethar, she whispered. The traitors. Elias frowned. Your own people. No, her voice dropped. Not my people, the ones who want me dead. And now that they know I survived the crash, she looked at Rowan. They will not stop. Elias swallowed. How many are coming? Saren closed her eyes briefly, sensing, listening to something Elias couldn't hear. 4 ships, she said. Small, fast, cloaked. Rowan's eyes widened. That's an assassination team. No, Saren corrected. That is a retrieval team. Elias blinked. Retrieval for you. Saren turned her head slowly toward him. For you. Elias felt ice crawl down his spine. Me. They failed to kill you, she said. And now they know you are bonded to me. They believe capturing you gives them leverage. Military, political, psychological. Rowan swore, they'll use him to force your surrender. No, Saren said. They will use him to force my collapse. Elias stared at her. Why me? I'm nobody. Saren's eyes softened with something that made his breath catch. You are not nobody, she said quietly. Not to them, and certainly not to me. The room went still. Rowan looked away, giving them a semblance of privacy he pretended not to give. Elias cleared his throat, voice unsteady. Saren, what am I to you? She didn't answer immediately. Not because she was unsure, but because she was choosing her words with the precision of someone who had never spoken anything fragile in her entire life. When my ship fell, she said, I believed I was alone. I believed my life had been reduced to duty, war, and survival. Her hand trembled in his. You broke that belief. His chest tightened. You risked your life for mine, she continued. Not for power, not for advantage. Simply because you saw me, and I do not know how to be unseen anymore. Elias swallowed, Saren. Her eyes rose to his bright, metallic, deeply weary. If they take you, she said, I will burn half the galaxy to get you back. Elias tried to smile. It didn't quite work. Okay, well, that's slightly terrifying and also strangely flattering. Rowan interrupted gently. We don't have time for poetic confessions. They'll be here any moment. Elias stood, but Saren's hand caught his wrist. No, she said. You cannot face them. You cannot fight them. You must stay behind me. Elias shook his head. I'm not hiding while they hunt you. Saren's voice broke just once. If you die because of me. I'm not dying, he said firmly. Not today, not when you just got back. The clinic lights flickered, not from Saren, not from the storm, from something descending, something cloaked. Rowan's eyes widened. They're here. Saren forced herself upright, agony lancing through her abdomen. Elias tried to steady her, but she shook her head. No, she whispered. I stand now, they must see me standing. Outside, faint shadows moved, silent, precise, deadly. 3 shapes, then 4, encircling the clinic. Rowan raised his weapon. Positions. The assassins moved like shadows, silent, precise, forming a tightening ring around the clinic. Their cloaking fields flickered in the rain, making them look like blurred phantoms rather than living beings. Elias felt the air pressure drop. This wasn't fear, it was intent. They weren't here to fight Saren. They were here to take him. Saren stepped in front of Elias, though her body trembled from her incomplete recovery. Her hand hovered slightly behind her, never touching him, but close enough that he felt her warmth like a shield. Rowan raised his rifle. Positions? No one fires unless I give the order. One of his soldiers whispered, Sir, they outmatch us. I know, Rowan said, but we're not handing over the dock. Elias blinked. Wait, you're protecting me now. Rowan didn't look at him. Saren's people respect strength. I'm trying the strategy where I pretend I have some. Saren almost smiled, almost. Then the assassins struck. They moved as one, 4 lethal lines converging toward Elias. Saren reacted first. Even weakened, even bleeding, she moved with a speed Elias had never witnessed in any species. Her arm blurred as she caught the first assassin by the forearm, twisting sharply. The armor cracked. The assassin crumpled, the body skidding across the clinic floor. Rowan fired a burst at the second attacker. The bullets ricocheted off reinforced armor, but the impact slowed the assassin long enough for Saren to kick them into a support beam. The impact dented metal. The third assassin slipped behind Elias, too fast, too quiet. Rowan shouted Elias, DOWN. Elias ducked just as a blade flashed overhead. It sheared through a cabinet like paper. Elias hit the floor hard, rolled, grabbed the nearest thing his hand found, a metal diagnostic tray. He swung it. The tray bounced off the assassin's helmet with a pathetic clang. Elias muttered, Great, that definitely didn't work. The assassin raised their blade. Saren appeared between them like a storm breaking open. Sikthar and Val, she growled, words Elias didn't understand but felt. The assassin hesitated, a fraction of a second, but that was all Saren needed. She drove her palm into their chest. A shockwave rippled through the room, every monitor flickering, every light bulb humming. The assassin was thrown backward, slamming into the far wall with bone-shattering force. Then the fourth assassin stepped through the doorway. This one didn't rush, didn't attack. They simply raised a device, small, metallic, glowing with a pulsing core. Saren's eyes widened. EMP disruptor, Elias cover. But the assassin wasn't aiming at the clinic. They were aiming at Saren's fleet. Elias lunged forward, not because he was strong, not because he was trained, but because he saw the calculation in Saren's eyes. If that device fires, her entire fleet will descend, not to save her, but to raise the planet to prevent her capture. She would rather die than let that happen, and Elias couldn't let her die. He tackled the assassin from the side. The disruptor flew from their hand, skidding across the floor. Rowan fired, taking the assassin down, but Elias didn't see any of that, because the moment he hit the ground, a blade sliced across his ribs, not deep, but deep enough. He gasped in pain. Saren screamed. It wasn't a human scream. It wasn't even a sound meant for human ears. It was a resonance, an ancient, powerful frequency that made the walls shake and the windows fracture like they were having second thoughts about staying whole. The remaining assassin froze mid-strike, clutching their ears. Saren moved with raw, terrifying grace, grabbing the assassin by the collar, ripping their helmet off, and slamming them into the floor so hard the ground cracked. Then she was at Elias' side. Her hands trembled as she touched his wound. Elias, look at me. He wheezed, I'm fine, just dramatic. Her eyes shone with something he'd never seen in her before. Fear, true fear. Do not joke, she whispered. Not now. He raised a shaking hand to her cheek. Saren, I'm okay. She grabbed his hand, pressed it to her face, and closed her eyes. Rowan approached cautiously. We were clear, all hostiles down. Saren didn't look away from Elias. Rowan, she said softly, seal the doors. He nodded, then hesitated. Are you leaving now? Saren opened her eyes. No glow, no armor, just grief and resolve. Yes, she said. Elias stiffened. Leaving? My empire cannot go leaderless another day, she said. Today's attack proves that, but if I leave now, alone, my enemies will strike again. She looked at him in a way that made his heart stop. You must stay here. If I take you with me, you will die. Elias shook his head fiercely. No, I'm not staying behind while you go off to fight for your life. Her voice broke. If you are captured, Elias, they will break me. I cannot, she inhaled sharply. I cannot command if I am afraid of losing you. He stared at her. She said it, not directly, not romantically, but she'd said it. Rowan stepped back, giving them space. Elias touched Saren's arm gently. Saren, if you leave, I'll still be bonded to you. I'll feel every danger you face. Yes, her voice cracked, and that frightens me more than death. Then stay, Elias whispered. I cannot. He swallowed hard. Then take me. She closed her eyes, pained. I cannot do that either. Silence settled, fragile, soft, breaking. Then Saren leaned forward, resting her forehead against his. Her breath trembled. I will return, she whispered. Not as a sovereign. Not as a warrior, but to you. Elias' voice was barely a breath. You promise. Yes. Her hand cupped his cheek one last time. Then she stood. Her fleet shimmered overhead, waiting. Rowan opened the reinforced door. Saren, the sky is yours. She gave a single nod, then turned back to Elias. You saved my life, she said. Now I save our future. And with a burst of light, she walked into the rain, her silhouette merging with the descending shuttle as it lifted her back toward the stars. Elias watched